And we're here with Brian Arnall. Brian, what did you talk with producers about today here at the Lahoma Field Day?
So we really did a nitrogen 101, the basics of nitrogen management and how we come up with some of those recommendations. So we started off the day with discussing the Stanford equation. It sounds like this complicated thing, but it really comes down to three really basic components on where does that N rate come from. It goes from having the knowledge of the nitrogen removed by the crop minus what's supplied by the soil. And then the last part is you take that little bit and divide it by the efficiency that you expect the nitrogen is going to be. So do you think 50% of it's going to be in the crop, 60%, and that gets a rate? That's really where our 2 pounds of N per bushel came from.
Okay.
We look at crop removal and the efficiency of which we're going to get that nitrogen into the crop. And then we use soil testing to tell us what the residual soil is going to be. But if we think about those three components are really not that easy to predict or understand.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. Is there an easier way to manage that?
Yeah, one of the newer concepts or approaches to thinking about nitrogen management that we're promoting more and more is called the 4 R's. The 4 R's of nutrient management are: we want it in the right place, at the right time, at the right rate, using the right source. And so what I talk to producers about is that the goal in nutrient management should be hitting all 4 of those keys. Now, if you're planning it out the first of the year, that's great. If you can actually achieve getting close to 3 of those, you'll probably have a really good year on nitrogen management or nutrient management. Right. If you get all 4, it's superb. Now, if we think about all those 4 independently, talk about a little bit about each of those, we'd start with, let's start with source. And so that would be, we talk of our sources: anhydrous ammonia, urea, liquid nitrogen, ammonium nitrate. All those sources have their times and their components which are going to be more efficient than the others. Urea applied and incorporated is quite efficient fertilizer. However, if you talk about urea applied in the spring when it's humid, windy, and temperatures are hot, there's a high likelihood of loss if it doesn't get rained in or is incorporated. Anhydrous is a good source up front because it's in the soil, so if you get nitrogen in the soil, it will be better, but it's harder to apply. The equipment's more expensive to apply it in season. Ammonium nitrate is a phenomenal source of nitrogen, especially for in-season or springtime applications. However, there's some complications in getting it just due to its history and the problems we may have it on storage and cells. Then we talk about timing. On winter wheat, typically we could put everything up front in the summer, on all the nitrogen up front in the summer, but that gives an entire period to be lost. If we have a heavy rainfall fall in winter, we have a chance of losing a great deal of that. Plus, we don't know what the yield's going to be. Right. So if we delay that to a top dress, our efficiencies will be better on what's applied and we have a better idea of what would be needed. Then we get into the placement. And especially if we talk about top dress placement. Right. If you could put that nitrogen into the soil, either through injection or what be it, it is better. But you have to go beyond that because not everybody can inject nitrogen. So we have, if we're talking about a liquid application, if you're applying UAN on a field in February, January, especially no-till field, and you don't have that much leaf coverage, a flat fan nitrogen rate is not a good option because it's going to get on that stover and there's a good chance it could be tied up. So how you apply, when you apply, and what source you use. And then in the end, we come to nitrogen rate. That is still important. Soil testing will give you a great upfront concept of what you have in the soil at the time, give you a better idea of rate. Then when we come to in season, as wheat prices go up, fertilizer prices go up, we're going to have more and more thought of doing in-season soil testing for nitrogen. It's a cheap lab method. $6 the soil testing lab can tell you nitrogen for in season, adjust that. And of course, if you guys have talked with me countless of times, the enriched strip and green seeker. Right. It's a great method to get the rate right.
Okay, so that's like everything you wanted to know about nitrogen application, but we're too afraid to ask.
That is nitrogen 101. that is a semester of nitrogen boiled down in a minute or two.
There you go. Brian Arnall with Oklahoma State University.